Hey everyone! The Starliner project has been one of the most talked about spacecraft in 2024, but not for the reasons you'd hope. Since it docked with the International Space Station, the problems have only gotten worse. NASA and Boeing have been working tirelessly to fix these issues. But now, NASA has made a big announcement that could change everything, and we're here to talk about it. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more updates. NASA held a crucial virtual meeting on July 10th to discuss the future of the Starliner spacecraft. This meeting came after a series of problems, including a helium leak and thruster issues in June. As NASA decides the best course of action to ensure their astronauts' safe return, the stakes are incredibly high. There's a lot of curiosity about NASA's recent decision. The space agency announced that in case of an emergency, the Starliner spacecraft will have a backup plan involving SpaceX's Dragon capsule. This highlights just how important SpaceX is to NASA's Commercial Crew program. During the meeting, important details about Starliner's current state and future plans were shared. The main concern was how to safely return astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams from the International Space Station. NASA confirmed that the Dragon capsule will be ready for use in an emergency, even if Starliner is the primary vehicle for their return. Despite the difficulties, NASA remains hopeful about Starliner's potential. Engineers are working non-stop to address over 30 issues with the spacecraft's propulsion system. Most of these problems have been fixed, and the rest should be completed soon. However, testing has shown that Starliner's thrusters retain more heat than expected, making it harder to replicate flying conditions on the ground. As a result, more testing and adjustments are needed to ensure the spacecraft is ready for its return trip. NASA and Boeing are focusing on additional ground testing at the White Sands Test Facility in New Mexico. Understanding the spacecraft's propulsion system and fixing all problems before attempting the return mission depends on these experiments. Steve Stick, the manager of NASA's Commercial Crew program, hopes Starliner will be ready for its return by the end of July. However, with time running out, the team needs to work quickly to complete this task. Mark Nappy, Vice President and Program Manager for Commercial Crew at Boeing, emphasized the continuous efforts to resolve the thruster issues and helium leaks. Engineers are testing flanges and seals in the propulsion system to find the source of the problems. The Crew 9 mission, scheduled for mid-August by SpaceX, also impacts when Starliner will return. Due to the space station's limited capacity, Starliner must undock to make room for the new crew. This adds urgency to finding a quick solution to the spacecraft's problems. It's clear that SpaceX's Dragon and Boeing's Starliner are becoming more competitive. According to NASA's Commercial Crew program, SpaceX has now successfully completed 9 flights, along with other commercial and cargo operations. This impressive track record puts a lot of pressure on Boeing. But SpaceX isn't just focused on Dragon, they're also making huge strides with Starship, the largest rocket ever built. Starship has already had 4 orbital test flights, each one helping SpaceX learn and improve. The first test flight happened on April 20, 2023. It was the first time they tried to launch Starship into orbit. The launch successfully lifted off, but multiple engine failures in the Super Heavy booster led to a loss of control, and the rocket was intentionally destroyed about 4 minutes after liftoff. Despite the failure, the test provided valuable data that led to significant design improvements for future flights. The second test flight occurred on November 18, 2023. This flight introduced a hot staging separation, where the second stage engines ignited while still attached to the booster. The booster experienced engine failures due to a liquid oxygen header filter blockage, leading to its destruction about 3.5 minutes into the flight. The Starship stage reached a higher altitude than the first flight but ultimately exploded about 8 minutes after launch due to telemetry loss. The third flight took place on March 14, 2024. This mission aimed to refine flight dynamics and test re-entry capabilities. The Super Heavy booster successfully completed a boost back burn and attempted a water landing, while the Starship stage reached a maximum altitude of about 90 miles before losing communication and being intentionally destroyed. The flight validated several design changes and provided key insights for future improvements. The fourth flight was on June 5, 2024. This test achieved partial orbital insertion, making it the most successful test to date. The Super Heavy booster completed a successful landing burn and touched down in the Gulf of Mexico. The Starship stage successfully re-entered the atmosphere and performed a controlled landing in the Indian Ocean, despite some damage to its flaps. Now, SpaceX is gearing up for another flight soon. Preparations for this upcoming test are in full swing, focusing on integrating lessons learned from the previous flights. Among the preparations, SpaceX conducted a static fire test of the S-30 booster in early May. This involved firing up the booster's engines while it remained firmly anchored to the ground, allowing engineers to verify that all systems were functioning correctly under launch conditions. But that's not all. The S-30 companion booster, B-12, has recently shown some activity. On July 7th, the booster transport stand was moved to the Mega Bay, signaling that something big was about to happen. Moving the transport stand is a logistical challenge that requires precise coordination, indicating that SpaceX is gearing up for another major test or even a launch. On July 9th, B-12 was lifted onto the transport stand and later moved to the launch site. Road closures suggest that a static fire test with B-12 is imminent. This test will fire all 33 engines for a few seconds while the booster stays put, simulating the launch conditions. SpaceX has been keeping everyone updated with tweets and photos showing B-12's move and getting everyone excited. Musk even tweeted, saying we should get ready for Flight 5, aiming for a late July launch. Once the static fire test is done, B-12 will probably go back to the build site for a checkup to make sure there's no damage and everything is ready for the next steps. One thing to watch is the new hot staging ring design. In the last flight, they had to discard the old one mid-flight, but the new design should fix that problem. After these checks, B-12 will go back to the launch pad to join S-30 for stacking and final tests, including a wet dress rehearsal. This rehearsal involves fueling the rocket and running through the countdown to make sure everything is good to go for the actual launch. And that's all for today's update. If you enjoyed watching and found it useful, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.